Okay, up next, we're going to talk about something called chromatic mediants. Now, this isn't something that you would come across until kind of later in a traditional music theory course. This is like third semester stuff. But it's something that I hear producers using in electronic music a lot. In fact, I've got a couple questions in some of my other music theory for electronic musicians classes where people have said, what is this chord progression? And asked me to figure something out. And it turned out it was using something called chromatic mediants. And so I hear it a lot in tracks. It's a cool sound that's very hip right now and people like using it. So I thought we definitely should include it in this class about more harmonic ideas. So what it is, 2 words, chromatic mediant. Let's focus on the mediant part first. So the mediant is a fancy way to say our third scale degree in the diatonic chord progressions. So let's super quick look at our diatonic chord progression. We'll stick to C major. Oops. Okay, here is our diatonic chord progression in C major. So we have a C major chord, our 2 chord is going to be a D minor, our 3 chord is going to be an E minor, etc. So mediant is a fancy name for this chord, the third one. Now, in the context of this chromatic mediant, it can also mean another chord, because what we're really looking at when we talk about chromatic mediants is altering the chords that are 3 away from our tonic. Okay, so this is our tonic, the name of our key. We're in C major. Okay, so 3 away would be this one, our third one. But we can also go the other way. We can go 3 down. So let's use this as our top. 3 down equals this one, 6. So the 6th chord is also affected in this scheme of chromatic mediants. Okay? So when we're talking about chromatic mediants, what we're really talking about is altering these 2 chords, the 3rd and the 6th. Okay? So that's where the word mediant plays into this chromatic mediants thing. When we talk about chromatic, what we're talking about is altering them in some kind of out of key way, right? Because chromatic just means not in any key. So let's focus on the 3rd for just a second here. What we have here in the key of C major, our 3rd is minor. This is an E minor chord, okay? But when we're using this idea of chromatic mediants, what that means is that what if our 3 was major? Now our 3 is major. It's chromatic. We pulled it out of the key. It's not in key anymore. But who cares? It sounds pretty neat to do it, actually. It sounds pretty cool. So what if our E was major or minor? So when we use a chromatic mediant, all that really means is we've altered the 3rd or 6th in some goofy way. But it sounds kind of good. So here is a major 3 chord, right? There's actually 3 different ways we could alter this. We could turn our E minor chord into an E major chord, which is what we just did. We could also change the root of it down to an E flat and then build a major chord on that. So that would be E, G, B flat. So now we have a flat 3rd, the 3rd scale, the 3rd chord in our scale is going to be flat, and we built a major chord on that. And the 3rd thing we can do is keep this flat and build a minor chord on it. So what we're saying now is that instead of the 3rd chord in the diatonic chord progression, instead of the 3rd chord just being minor like it's supposed to be, An interesting way to alter it would be to change it to a major, to change the root of it down a half step, and then build a major chord on that. Or a third way is put the root at a half step lower and build a minor chord on that. Let me show you an example where we would do that a lot. And everything I just said goes for the 6th chord as well. We can do that with 6th chord. In fact, let's do it with the 6th chord in this example. So let me take the C major chord, throw it up 1. Let's get rid of that and that. So now I just have my 6th chord. Let's pull this out. Okay, so here is my tonic chord, C major, and then a minor 6th chord. It's an A minor chord, totally in key. Okay, that's the way they're supposed to sound. Let's just finish off this chord progression by let's put a 5 maybe after it. So I have a G, should have a B, and a D. Okay. 5, and then let's put a 1 after that. Okay, so here's our chord progression. We have 1, 6, 5, 1. Okay, it's cool, nothing fancy. Let's start messing with the 6 a little bit. So what if we made this 6 major instead of minor? So instead of going to an E minor chord as expected, we went to an E major chord. Let's just hear what that sounds like first. Okay, a little different, right? Bear with me here. One cool thing that results from that is you have this chromatic line inside, and then a step. Right, so there's this, you can make use of this line inside that's kind of fun. But okay, let's go back to minor with that. Let's get it back in our head. Okay, now let's alter it another way. Let's take it down a half step. So now we've taken it down to an A flat. So I've built a minor or a major chord on top of it. So I now have an A flat 6 chord, right? So it's a little out of the key, actually kind of a lot out of the key. But let's feel how that leads into this 5 chord. It might be kind of cool. Right? It's a different feeling, but it's kind of a cool one. Let's make that a minor chord. Right, I like how that chord leads into that chord now. You know, they have a common tone, a tone in between them that is the same, which is a nice touch. Let's do something else with this though. Let's take this back to a major. Let's get rid of this 5 chord. Let's take our 6 chord, nudge it over. And now in between those two, let's put a 7 chord in a minor key. So let's switch over to a minor key. So now I'm on C minor. Now my 7th chord is going to be B flat, D, F. And now I have an A flat, C, E flat, and that's in key, actually. What if I wanted to make that a minor chord? Okay. Now let's take this top note down an octave. Check this out. This is the chord progression I hear in electronic music all the time. Not so much that ending. I forgot to make that minor. I need to find my E here. Right there. That needs to be minor. Okay, let's hear it now. It sounds a little goofy out of context like this, but I do hear this a lot in electronic music. I hear this kind of C, B flat, A flat, and then back down to C with a G in the bottom. Step. Makes a nice bass line. Makes a nice chord progression. So this one in a way is kind of the opposite of the pentatonic stuff we were talking about a second ago, because the chromatic mediant thing is only about making chord progressions. So basically what we've done here is we're just looking at different ways that we can alter the 3 and the 6 to make them sound a little cooler and not so as stale. So we take a couple notes and we alter them. Now, just to recap real quick, if we're in a major key, we have 3 different ways we can alter that chord, that minor chord, or the 3 chord. And that is, it's a minor chord naturally. In key, it's minor. So what we can do is we can make it a major chord. That's one way. We can lower it by a half step and make a minor chord on it. That's another way. We can lower it by a half step and make a major chord on it. That's a third way. If we're in a minor key, the natural sound of it is going to be major. So if we're in the key of A minor, you're going to end up with a C major chord as your 3. So the 3 things you can do to that one are you could make it minor. So you can take your E major and convert it to E minor. The other thing you could do is you could actually raise it by a half step. And that would make it a C sharp major chord. And then from that, you can make that a minor chord and have a C sharp minor chord. It's kind of wild. Now remember, this does take stuff out of key. You're going out of key when you do this, but remember, if everything was always just in key, then it's just boring. We do stuff like this to jazz it up, to make it sound cooler, so it's not just playing chord after chord all the time, right? All right, so let's do some of this in context. Let's work on some tracks using this idea.